Hi, I'm Kristie Clayton, founder and visionary of HERverse. HER is an acronym for Helping Executives Rise. Welcome to ConvHERsations with Kristie, where we dive into real, raw, and inspiring conversations with incredible leaders. You see, at HERverse, we're not just a community, we're a movement, a space where women leaders rise together, support one another, and celebrate our collective success. Whether you're leading as a second in command, steering the vision as the visionary or founder, or driving impact with your company as a leadership team member, HERverse was designed for you. Our mission is to provide resources, coaching, and peer support that you need to grow confidently in your leadership journey. Through memberships like Female Executive Mastermind and the Lead Her community, along with events like workshops and summits, and even personalized coaching, we are here to help women embrace their strengths, overcome challenges, and truly thrive. And that's what ConvHERsations with Kristie is about too. It's a space to share the golden nuggets of wisdom that come from authentic, heartfelt, real conversations. There's no scripts, there's no fluff, just honest insights from leaders who are leading boldly and making an impact. See, I believe leadership isn't something you do alone. It's a journey we navigate, and we don't have to do that alone. We can do it together, because together we rise. Now, let's get started with today's conversation. I am confident you are going to love it. I'm so excited to welcome Faustina Kirchhoff from AssistPro. Hi, Faustina. It's good to see you.
Hi, you too. Thanks so much for having me today. I'm super excited to hop into our conversation.
Me too. It's going to be a fun one for sure. Would you like to introduce yourself and who you are and who AssistPro is?
Yeah, so Faustina, I'm the integrator of AssistPro. I've been with AssistPro since late 2018. So I guess going on 6 years, which is really crazy to think about. But at AssistPro, we provide executive assistant services to business coaches, consultants, really heavily present in kind of our EOS methodology, but we work with visionaries, integrators, high-powered executives of leadership teams, but we're really here to provide that support, but in a way where we match you with the right person. So it's not just about finding anybody, it's really about taking the time to utilize our expertise and finding that person that is going to be a long-term fit for you. So not just based off of skill set, but also relational compatibility. So there's just a lot of things that go into that that are really important to us. And so the matching is kind of that key piece of it. So that is a little bit about what we do, but I just kind of actually met Jenna, our visionary, through Kristie. So this conversation is kind of full circle. So it's just been fun to see how all of that has developed. So I have you to thank for that, Kristie, for meeting Jenna and AssistPro. So
that's amazing. It's so funny thinking back about how long we've known each other. It's been 8 years or so now. You were on the FEM team, which is now HERverse, and so that's really kind of cool to see it come full circle for you.
Yeah, it's really awesome to be here and just to kind of see what you've done with everything, because it has been several years since I've been on the leadership team, and just to see it develop and kind of follow along has been really exciting.
Oh, it's been fun, and it's been fun watching you develop too, right? I mean, AssistPro has really kind of changed over the years, and what you all are doing, and I know matchmaking is definitely a big part of it, but that's kind of been an evolution for you all.
Yeah, it has. I mean, when I started at AssistPro, pre-COVID, it was still like people did not. Virtual was not a thing. Like you said, hey, I have a Zoom meeting, and people kind of still looked at you like, what is Zoom? And here we are 5 years later, and it's like virtual is like everybody's looking for remote work and work from home and that flexibility. But whenever I came to AssistPro, it was still like this like brand new term. And so, we were growing very quickly, and then it was all of a sudden it was COVID, and it was like virtual was how we survived and how we continue to do business. And so that really was, a big change for us. And while it was positive in the way that the industry kind of like everybody knew about us and knew what we did, but it was also difficult because it was like, well, now everybody is finding, so it kind of took away a little bit of that zeal of like, oh, you have the upper hand because you guys are already doing it. But then when everybody's doing it, it kind of becomes a little bit of a commodity. And that's really, but so it was difficult to kind of work through all of that. But it also really led to some really good conversations between me and my visionary Jenna, because that's really where we were able to start pulling out like just this thought process of, we specifically her have never really loved the way the industry works of like this like high overhead model. And it's just, as long as you want a virtual assistant, you pay that high overhead. And so that has really led to some really good conversations, and has actually led to us really kind of doing things differently and wanting to kind of shake up the industry a little bit and be like, hey, like we love the virtual assistant world, but we want to do it differently so that the value is placed where it should be at. So it's kind of it's been, an interesting few years coming out of COVID.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like, how when you're talking about, disrupting an industry and doing things differently, first of all, that takes a lot of courage. So I first and foremost just want to applaud you and Jenna for doing that, right? That is not something that's easy to do. And Jenna thinking outside the box is that visionary of what can we possibly do, and you turning it into action, right? So I'm curious, like, how did that process work for you? Like, how did you really think through, like you and Jenna, like how do we disrupt this? How do we make it different?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, just in true visionary fashion, it's like it starts as an idea and it's just kind of like this thing, but I think as integrators, and I think you actually, I remember in conversations with you, Kristie, like you used to carry around a notebook and you would write down all of your ideas. And I remember you telling me like you constantly like come back to it in your same page meetings and you're like, hey, is this still something that is on your mind? And like you would kind of keep it to that was kind of the way that you worked with your visionary. And, I think that is one thing that has stuck with me, because it's been like, hey, like, if I hear this, consistently, like it is something that is really near and dear to my visionary's heart. And so, whereas other things like get spouted off and it's like, you come back to them and they're like, I don't even remember saying, they don't remember saying that. And so it kind of gives you a gauge of like, what's a really good idea that like is really something they're passionate about versus like something they're just ideating to ideate because it's fun for them. And so that was one of those ideas that, we had several meetings. And I mean, over the course of several years, like, I feel like this is something that, whenever I started with Jenna, and I'm asking like, hey, what do you see like 3-5 years down the road? Like, this is always like an underlying theme, but it's scary. It's scary to make that big of a jump. And we were still working to like systematize the current business, and it was growing, 50% year over year. So you're also going through like a tremendous amount of growth and then to think about completely doing it differently. So like the middle part of, hey, we want to do something different. We feel like there's value that is in a different place other than just providing an assistant to work hours. The middle part was really messy. And it was like, it was this kind of, before you actually get to, hey, here's the idea that we think is actually going to stick. It kind of showcased itself in different ideas. Like it almost like manifested itself. Like, and we tried some other different things and we just kind of kept coming back to like, it's not what we thought it was going to be. It doesn't actually achieve the goal or, that vision that we were looking to. And so I think it was a little bit of a time period of just kind of messiness and a little bit of frustration of like, this is, like you try it, you come back, it's like, well, that didn't actually achieve the objectives that we were looking for. And so, but then what really kind of catapulted the change was we went into a period where probably like 3 to 6 months where our business development team, they were sitting on sales calls and they were listening and they were bringing that feedback to us of like, hey, we need something different because sales are slowing down, sales conversations are harder, people are looking for something different. And so we were just kind of like, okay, like I think this idea is actually what we need to go and beta test. And so, we kind of allowed our salespeople to go out and just kind of test the verbiage first to see like, hey, is this something that people are going to bite on? And then it was like, oh yes, like the beta testing, I think as integrator for me, that's hard because I want to like have all of it planned out first and then beta test it. So we're ready if it does take off. But I think I've had to learn that like sometimes you just have to let go a little bit and like beta test it first. And then if it works, come back and put the process into it. So that's been something that I have really had to work through because it's a different way of operating, but it's also like if you were to do all of the work ahead of time and then nobody wants it, then you've done all of that work for nothing. So I think as integrators, we kind of struggle with that of like, sometimes we have to do things opposite of the way that we work because it's actually what's better for the company. And so, we really kind of started to split out our business model and really separate the value of what AssistPro does and provides through coaching and matching and training, outside of and separate from the assistance hours, because both of them are very valuable pieces, but we really wanted to make our clients understand the two different value components of what we bring to the table. And so we really separated that out, and we've changed the way that we not necessarily offer the service, and that's what's been interesting is we didn't really have to change the way that we operate at its core. So the change was easier. We just changed the external value proposition, how it was priced, and it's actually simplified so many things for our business. Like it's just been amazing how much has been simplified without changing the way that we offer our service. We've not had to cut any value from the way that we offer our service. We still provide this really boutique experience for our clients. So it's just been really interesting because you kind of go into a change thinking, okay, all of these things are going to have to change. We are going to simplify means that we've got to cut pieces out or we can't do certain things, and we really have seen the opposite of that. We've seen like simplifying, but not having to say no, or we can't provide that value to our clients. So that has been just really rewarding. But, I went into that thinking like 3 to 6 months, because obviously we had to like lay out the sales and the marketing and then the operational processes and get it systematized, and then actually like train our team on how do you provide this value. And we went through this period of time where you're kind of like a spectrum a little bit of like, okay, if we're starting here, here's where all this information that we have to have and answers to questions. And it was super detailed. And it was like every single piece or like, so it was just really interesting, like the team dynamic of like making this change, involving your whole team and having to learn like, okay, what does each individual person need to do their job appropriately, and just all of the change management that went into it of like making sure that everybody was equipped with what they need, because some people needed more detail. Some people were like, nope, like I'm ready to go. I'm ready to sell this. So, as an integrator and like seeing your team go through a huge, massive undertaking was also very rewarding, because you got to like coach people and make sure that everybody, had what they needed. But it also really, the business model change really brought out some really like difficult pieces culturally and company wise. And so, we recognized that there were certain people that no longer belonged on the bus. And so making those decisions and having those hard conversations, and then realizing that like we actually made the business model itself too, I don't know what the best way to explain it, but almost too rigid. And we had to like go through a period of kind of pulling back a few things and saying, hey, we thought through this too much and now it's too rigid. There's no flexibility. So there's also pieces where you like take it so far and then you actually have to pull it back a little bit to be like, no, this is our sweet spot. And what I thought was going to take us 3 to 6 months, and I'm an integrator, so I'm like thinking like, okay, I've thought through everything and it's going to take 6 months. We're 18 months on the other side of this, and just kind of coming out to where we're like, hey, we're ready to market this heavily and widely, and we feel really good about the service that we're offering. We've been able to validate that like clients love the model, but through all of that, we also came to a point where we're like, half of our team needs to go because it's not the right fit anymore. And we had to make some really hard decisions. And you don't realize in that moment as integrator, like they tell us that you're here to make those hard decisions and you're here to be the tiebreaker. And when it comes down to it and your team comes to you and says, hey, this business model is working, but we're running out of like lead time of testing things out. And it's like, hey, you have to make some really hard decisions. I don't think any integrator knows how they're going to like handle that until you're actually in the moment. And it's really hard. And it's hard to have to go to your team and say, hey, like this is what's best for the company right now. It is nothing that you've done wrong. And to have to, let those people go and then explain to your remaining team, hey, we just had to let go of all of these people that we, are near and dear to our heart. We love them to pieces, but for what's in the best interest of AssistPro, these people have to leave. That was really, it was hard. It was very humbling, but you also then kind of see the rest of your team pull together and be like, hey, like we've got this. And we've really spent the last 3 months kind of coming out of that period. And we've seen a lot of really great positive strides, even just culturally. So it's just, it's interesting when you make one small decision of like, hey, we're gonna test this out. We're gonna change the business model. But to see how the spider web and where we're at today, and we're 18 months into it, I'm like, okay, like we're getting there. So it does feel really good now, but it's been a hard road, but it's definitely been super rewarding just to see where we're at now.
Yeah. So Faustina, can we talk about that? First of all, I appreciate that you remembered how I always write things down. One of these days we'll have to talk about how I've expanded that to, I now call it the visionary sandbox, right?
Oh, there we go.
Lay together. And as integrator, like some ways that you can really be involved in that. But I love that. I still walk around with that notebook, by the way.
That's awesome.
Yeah, got to keep all those thoughts, right? Because they come and they go. And you're right. Sometimes as visionaries, we have a thought and it's like, I don't even remember what that was about. And you kind of keep going. But then, if it comes up more than once and it just keeps occurring for me, then I know it's something like it's really viable that I really need to like lean into. Why am I having this consistent thought, right? But anyway, thank you for that. I appreciate that. It's interesting listening to you talk about making hard decisions, right? Because there were hard decisions that had to be made. Sometimes it's easy for us to say, well, this is the way we've always done it. Right. And not make those hard decisions. But if you're going to disrupt an industry and you want to be a game changer, then hard decisions do have to be made. So I'm curious from you, like, what was your process in making some of those hard decisions? Did you have something that you did? Or is it just one of those things where you just had to lean in and make the decision?
Yeah, I feel like we did have a few tools. And I think, we utilize a scorecard religiously. And so that is one of the things, not like our level, we did have to go deeper than just our level 10, but we also have like our financial dashboard. And it was kind of telling us, hey, there's some things that are wrong here. And if you ignore them, you're going to really be in a bad spot. And so I think that was just having those tools was really beneficial, just to kind of alerting us to, hey, like, this is not good. You need to make a decision. And I think, as integrator, trusting in those tools that you've surrounded yourself with, because we surround ourselves with tools and people to help us, because we can't be the only ones that are, keeping track of everything to know all about the business. Like that's just, I think as integrators, sometimes we try, but it's just not, it's not a good place to put ourselves in. And so the tool, the financial tools was one of them. But then once we knew we had to make some decisions, I was able to go to my leadership team, which we just have a really strong level of trust amongst us. And I was like, hey guys, like this is where we're at. And as integrator, this is what I know that we need to do. And, that trust that we had amongst our leadership team, they didn't bat an eye. They were like, okay, like we trust you, we trust the decisions. Of course they had questions and they were like, hey, and so we worked through that. But, to have a leadership team that really like trusts in you and is like, hey, we believe that you're making the right decisions and therefore the best interest of the company, that certainly helps. And, but when they come back and they ask, hey, well, what about, can we do this? Like, can we keep them, but only like part-time hours? As integrator, you really have to like dig in and say like, I'm so sorry, but no, like this is what we have to do. And, just really sticking with your guns of like knowing that it's the right decision, even though like the person inside of you is like, is devastated that you have to make these hard decisions. And, the only thing you can do is go into those conversations with those people and be like, hey, like I'm owning this. This is, as integrator, this is on me, not on you. So being able to also just show up as a human with those people and really just give them the grace and those conversations. So I think it's really about surrounding yourself with tools that help you make the hard decisions, but then also surrounding yourself with those people who are going to be there and support you in making those hard decisions. And those two things coupled together, I think, is what really just like pushed us forward to say, no, like you have to, if you don't, this is what's going to happen. And the data showed us what would happen if we didn't make those hard decisions.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I think what my next question is going to be for you is, how are you taking care of yourself making all of these hard decisions?
I have just been, and even before like the hard decisions, but as integrator, I think it's about sitting in the like discomfort. Like, so for me, it's been a lot of, just giving myself grace that like, I don't have to be sitting at my desk from 8 to 5 every minute of the day and like being on. Like I have to give myself the space to just check out for 30 minutes here, or check out for, for 30 minutes there, or go for a walk, do something, because it can be very overwhelming, especially as like the last really like 3 to 6 months for me has been digging back into the foundational pieces of our business and stripping out all of the complexity, which can be very overwhelming because I am on like the operations and the technology and the financial side and seeing all of the complexity. And so really just giving myself the space to recognize, okay, when is my brain turned on and ready to like really dive into this? But then if I'm feeling like, hey, I cannot get into that zone, like so I think it's just about flexibility. And for me, that is what it has been about, is just giving myself flexibility, which I'm not naturally good at. So I think that that's probably the best way that I've taken care of myself. It's not like, taking a day off here or there. It's more about just within my day-to-day, giving myself room for that flexibility and the flow of just where my energy is at. So just trying to preserve that energy, in any way that I can. So
I love that. It's always important that we take care of ourselves as much as we take care of the business and everybody else, right?
Yes. It's easier said than done.
That is very, very true. It's so easy for, a flight attendant to make that statement, right? Put your oxygen mask on.
Yes.
Until you're in this situation and you're like, wait a minute, my child is struggling to breathe, right? It's like, of course I'm going to take care of that person.
Yes.
When we do sit back and realize, wait a minute, I do have to take care of me, because if I'm not showing up, then I'm not taking care of the people, right? So
yes.
It's so important that we take care of ourselves, and taking care of ourselves looks different for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. So, yep.
I love it. Girl, I knew this was going to be such a fun conversation that we would have. And I'm so grateful for your vulnerability and sharing, some of the hard things that occurred for you. And I'm super excited to see where you all are going from this point, and excited to see you on the other side. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for listening and kind of giving me a platform to share.
Absolutely. Well, you know how we're going to end this conversation, right? You know me well enough to know how much honor, empower, inspire means to me. And so honor is really thinking about a woman of a past generation that you want to honor and recognize. Who would that be for you?
I think for me, it's not like one individual, but would be, as a collective, my grandmothers. And so just through my childhood, I spent a lot of time with 3 of my grandmas, 2 which are still living, thankfully. And so, they just, as I think back to like stories and things that I remember from my childhood, just a lot of that and who I am today is really tied into who they were and the lessons that they taught me, just given the amount of, time that I have been given with all of them. So I would say those 3 collectively.
I love that. You know how much my grandmother means to me. So it's always fun when I hear you guys talk about their grandmother. So thank you for honoring them. What about empower? Who is a woman of a current generation that empowers you to show up as your absolute best self, or that you hope to empower to be their best?
I would say one, and I always with this question, I was like, this person does not know me. They don't know who I am specifically. But one that sticks out is, her name is Tiffany Sauter, and I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she spoke at the EOS conference a couple of years ago, and she has a course out that's called the Life of And Academy, which has always been something that I am super passionate about. And so I just love learning from her. And it's really about how do we as women do more without being like stressed, especially as, moms or aunts and professional women. And so that has just been something that has been really empowering to me, to learn from her and be able to go and implement some of those, easy tactics into my life and make things just a little bit easier, not just for myself, but also for my family, so that I can continue to be integrator and, accomplish the things that I would like to accomplish. But my family also means so much to me. I want to make sure that they don't suffer, because I want to go and do these big things. So I would definitely say her.
I love that. That's awesome. What about inspire? Who is a woman of a future generation that you hope to inspire?
Well, I've got 2 daughters, so I would say easily them. But my 10-year-old, she is a little entrepreneur, so she is quickly learning. And so it's just, it's funny. My youngest, she tells me that she's writing me emails. So just to see like what they pick up on, but really just, kind of going in with that life of and showing them that like you can be a professional and you can be a woman and you can do whatever you want to do and you can still have a family, So I think we've just grown up kind of feeling like you have to choose one or the other. And for me, I'm super passionate about, you don't have to choose. You shouldn't have to choose. So that's what I am just really passionate, is like showing them day to day that like you can have both things and you can be great at both of them.
I could not agree more. And I think even bigger than that for me, Faustina, is you get to choose, meaning you also get to decide which one you want, or if it's one or the other or both, right? Nobody else gets to pick your success except for you.
Yes, exactly. I love that.
I love that that's how we ended our conversation. Thank you again for coming on. This was so fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I get to see you soon, so I can't wait.
Yes, sounds good. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. See you again next week.